So why do you support Trump?
It's more of like an open mind type of thing. But from where I grew up, both my parents were liberals early on, and then they turned Republican later on. I think it's more of like an immigration thing, like the last guy was saying. Um, I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and I was adopted and brought into the country legally. And it just kind of upsets me that I had to go through this process. My parents had to pay so much money for me to be here legally, yet illegal immigrants can come across and take advantage of what I got to have.
Okay, so did you know that like this is like this age old meme that like because it was bad for me means it should be bad for other people?
No, that's not what I'm saying though. I'm saying that I have.
Okay, so like we're saying the process should go significantly quicker. The process takes too long to be able to get into the country, right? So then why would it be the case that you would like be mad at someone for particularly trying to come to the country for a better life, given that they meet all the set of criteria that you would require of someone in order to be able to be here?
So
They haven't committed a
that's
violent
the
crime. They haven't committed a
equivalent.
bad crime.
Okay. That is the equivalent of someone being like, "Listen, I'm poor and I need food and money. I'm gonna go rob someone so I'm able to eat and have a better life."
Who's the victim of someone coming to the country undocumented?
Um, everyone that's not like processed through the. I mean, you got to have like social security cards and be
No,
able to like
I'm just
run
asking
in
who's the victim.
everyone. I mean, you got to think
Everyone. So
people.
I'm a victim of undocumented immigration.
Absolutely. I mean, you pay taxes,
Really?
correct?
Yes, I do. I
Yes. I
do pay
mean,
taxes. How am I a
okay.
victim of undocumented immigration? Can you please explain that to me?
Absolutely. Hang on. I just wanted this debate to be like you go back and forth and I go back and forth, so we're not just arguing with each other. But
Well, that's what a debate is. You argue. You give different arguments.
yeah, yeah, but not interrupt each other is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure. But
Um,
did you get my point there?
absolutely, absolutely. But I feel like with people that are documented that pay into taxes and healthcare, we give them free healthcare that's coming out of my pocket. The 1,500 that were given to all illegal immigrants coming across the country, that was insane, and that was coming out of people that was paying taxes, and that's horrible. That's not how that should be. And I get your point absolutely about how they need a better life and stuff like that. But breaking the law to do that is not the right way to do it. It never is. They need to come through the right way, even if it takes a long time. Point blank. Period. It
So
should.
I just only know undocumented immigrants specifically paid $100 billion in taxes right in 2022. Secondly, you want to address this?
In
That's
twenty
hold up, yeah, in 2022. Secondly, in terms of this, right, like documented immigrants and undocumented immigrants have a higher labor force participation rate than natural-born U.S. citizens, meaning that they're going to be paying into the system more than they're taking out of it comparative to natural-born U.S. citizens because they're working more, right? And actually, in order for us to be able to pay for systems like Medicare and Social Security, and things like that continually in the long run, because there's actually going to be a greater proportion of our population that is older, that isn't working, that is engaging in the usage of these social services, because it is the case that life expectancy is becoming larger, right, and retirement's becoming longer. Do you
So do you?
understand like what I'm saying there? Like we need
Yeah. No.
more younger
Absolutely.
people,
Where
and
are you getting
because
that information from?
fertility rates have been below replacement rates since the 1970s, right? It is the case that we have to be able to like actually address that meaningfully if you want to continue population growth in this country. So that's why immigration is an incredibly important aspect of this country,
Absolutely.
right? In terms of its
Absolutely.
economic background, right? So
Legal immigration is so important in this
yeah,
country.
but that we need to make the legal process go faster. And what's the point of
Absolutely.
a legal process? The point of the legal process too is to ensure the safety and security of the American people. If someone's in the country already, they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime. What?
They've
How
already
is
committed a
deporting
crime.
them making you safer?
They've already committed a crime by coming here illegally.
You
I
don't really
think we
care
should
about
keep
that, do
one
you?
compare.
You voted
No,
for a
I
guy who's a
absolutely do.
I just want to clarify. You voted for a convicted criminal held civilly liable of a woman who literally pardoned people who
Why are we
pled
changing the
guilty and
topic?
admitted to violently police officers on
Why are
January
we
6th.
changing the, why are we changing the topic? This was about immigration.
Wait,
You
I'm
just
sorry. I'm sorry. Like, do you not care about any of those violations for crimes?
so hang on. We were at a really good point where we were talking about, and then you just throw in Donald Trump because you want to switch topics. That's not
No,
how this works. We
wait,
gotta
no,
finish the topic
wait,
we're
no.
talking about.
I'm addressing this, and I'm explicitly, showing you that that like you care about violating the law only when Democrats do it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So first of all, let's go back to where we first started, and then I will answer your question about Donald Trump. One, where did you get the information from about the immigrants? I just want to know where your point was
Labor
from.
force participation rate, Bureau of Labor Statistics, St. Louis Federal Reserve.
Okay, thank you. And no, to answer your second question, I believe everyone should be held to the standard. Third of all, with Donald Trump being a convicted felon, if that was true, wouldn't he be in prison?
He is a convicted felon. He's a sentenced felon, but he didn't go to prison specifically because he got elected. That says
That
that.
makes it okay.
Wait, what do you mean that makes it? I'm saying he should be in
I
prison.
mean, if anybody did that, wouldn't they go to prison?
I think he should be.
Well, no, that's not what I asked. I mean, if anybody else did that other than Donald Trump,
Wait, are you saying he wasn't convicted of 34 felonies?
I don't know, honestly. Like,
You don't know? I mean, it's a fact. I can show you AP News, PBS, NPR,
You can't show me
Reuters.
news.
I can show you
News
Fox
not
News
accurate.
saying this.
News-
Fox
I
News
don't-
says this.
I don't like Fox News. I don't like Fox News. I don't believe in news.
Who do you
reports.
like, Alex Jones?
No. I like self research. Going over
Like where? Where do you research?
like federal research off federal sites.
Off federal sites.
Well, I mean, come on, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I don't know much
Well,
about
then why
this,
don't you look at the federal charges?
Maybe I should. Yeah, Parker, I'm not here to say that like we're all right. I'm very open minded on everything. It's just, I'm not going to know everything about Donald Trump. Do I believe he was the best candidate out of all of them? Yes. Do people have horrible past? Yes. Do I believe he actually did it? No, not at all. I believe people get stuck with improper charges all the time. And that's my opinion. That like how you have your own opinion.
He was convicted of it.
Bad jury. I mean,
Bad jury.
yeah.
And in a criminal
It's
court,
my opinion.
in a
It's
criminal
my
court,
opinion.
beyond a reasonable doubt.
Absolutely. That happens. All that can happen at any
What
time.
makes you think that? You sound like a cult member right now. This is the wait. I have a question. Why do you?
No.
Wait, how do you feel about? Wait, no, I want to specifically ask you about this because I know exactly the way you're going to take it, and it's going to be really funny to hear. So here, I'm going to ask you this question, right? How do you feel about the fact that Donald Trump was held civilly liable?
So first of all, why are you going to call me a cult member? That's just rude.
Wait, no, respond to that real quick, and
Why
then
do-
I'll address you. I'll address you on that. I promise you.
Okay. So he said
Yes,
it's factual.
yes. That's
Why
what
is he not in
that's what civil court indicated because it's a civil
Why-
court and it's beyond statute of limitations, so it couldn't be applied in a criminal court. Statute of limitations is a stupid law
Why-
for
Wait, why couldn't it be applied in criminal court if it's about
statute of limitations, which means it's been too many years since the event occurred where you can't try it. But for many victims, it takes decades to come out, or they don't come out at all. So the fact that there is a statute of limitations on is a ridiculous thing in the first
that's
place.
horrible. That's so stupid. I never knew about that.
Oh.
I really didn't.
Okay.
I had no clue that was even a thing. I appreciate you telling me that though.
Okay. So do you still support him?
I mean, yeah. I mean, unfortunately.
So that's why you sound like a cult member.
Okay. I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, I look at Democrats and I question.
I honestly thought you were gonna go down to the line and say like, oh, it's not a criminal case, and I was gonna be like, okay, well, you don't even accept the other criminal case, and you don't accept
No,
that
not
so-
at all. I mean, I believe that like he should be tried for that, and it shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fair that you have a limit on this. It's horrible. That's disgusting. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah, but then you still support him.
Well, I can't.
Isn't that a disgusting and horrible thing?
It is, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What evidence are you willing to look at? You can literally go look at the jury verdict
please.
form. Go look at the verdict
Okay.
form.
Can you tell me where I can look at that, please?
Yeah, look up Eugene Carroll v. Donald Trump verdict form. It's going to tell you that Trump Eugene Carroll, according to the jury, on the jury verdict form. And the reason why on number 1 it says that it doesn't say yes for because it is the case that specifically in New York at the time, right? Unless it was a male member then it is the case that it wouldn't be considered. Even though, right, we would all, in a colloquial usage, again, the judge said this himself, right, that identify this as because it's forceful against her will. We don't think that it needs to be a male member specifically.
You know if she did like a hit?
No, we don't have that. No.
Okay. All right. I was just curious if they did that or not.
Well, I think you should look into the case and genuinely address that because that's a horrible thing to support.
Yeah. I mean, me just saying that it's just horrible, like saying I support Donald Trump on, sexual assault charges and stuff. But personally, Parker, I just, from what I've gathered from school and my life, I don't, he's done more good for me than bad. And that's honestly why I'm supporting him.
Okay, so it's only because of the effect on you. You don't care about the effect on anyone else?
I do, but you gotta understand that he's affected me in a good way.
In what good way has he affected you? In what good way has he affected you that then justifies all of the horrible, disgusting, and abhorrent done.
You can't say that. You can't say that because
Okay, then why? Well,
every elected.
then you aren't justified in voting for him.
So hang on, you like Kamala, correct?
Kamala.
Kamala, sorry, Kamala. Um, she's done horrible things, yet you support her, right? I mean,
I think
and they've all
I
done
think that
horrible things.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are better alternatives comparative to Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump, every single characteristic you bring up in terms of Kamala Harris that you disagree with, Donald Trump is worse on to the extreme.
In what way? Like business, personality, or
Yes,
like altogether?
I'm specifically like giving an example. Like for example, like I disagree with the Democrats' pro-Israel position, right? And
Mhm.
if we reference that, Donald Trump is even more pro-Israel, right? So it's like we can address points in terms of their particular perspectives that I disagree with, but
Yeah.
Trump's worse. Or we could reference particularly how they still agree with deporting some people who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes. I think that's bad, but they're going to do it significantly less than Donald Trump, and it is the case that they're going to do it through a process of due process. Right? They also have different conditions for ranks for like priority lists in terms of
Yeah.
deportations for immigration that Donald Trump is just completely surpassing and just literally deporting anyone, right, without due process. So it's like that's one thing too. And again, the point I can acknowledge that I disagree with the position, but then again think that it's better than Donald Trump. And I can acknowledge
Okay.
that. And like I can
Can I
give
ask a
real world examples. I can give policy positions, things like that.
That's the question.
Uh-huh.
How would you go about like deporting all the illegal immigrants, or just how would you go
Oh,
about it? Like,
so this is what I would do. Anyone who's in the country has not committed a violent crime or bad crime should be given a pathway to citizenship that's quick, where they are allowed to stay in the country.
okay, so is there a
Anyone
difference
who's
between
committed a violent crime or a bad
bad
crime
crime?
should be deported on the condition that they're going to be put in a prison in another country.
So wait, hang on. Tell me the difference between a bad crime and a regular crime.
For example, there are certain crimes that have existed throughout history that I don't think are like bad crimes. Like for example,
Like,
someone coming into the country, right, undocumented, if it's classified specifically under a federal law, right, then in that circumstance, I wouldn't consider that wrong because the specific process took too long to get into the country.
okay, and then how would you deport them?
I wouldn't. It's
At
mass
all?
amnesty. Yeah, if they haven't committed a violent crime or
Even
bad
the
crime, I
violent
wouldn't
ones?
deport them.
Even the violent ones?
People who have committed violent crimes or bad crimes are going to be put in a prison in another country.
And then what do you say about like when you do deport the violent or the bad crimes? I guess. What about splitting the families? Because I hear a big thing with Democrats is like you guys are splitting families and stuff like that. Yet they split families all the time when they cross the border.
Okay. So, in terms of like there being situations where citizens, murder people or engage in violent crimes, we separate them from their families as well, because it is the case that they've committed a violent crime, and they're now to be put in prison,
Okay, so it's okay to split families now because
given
they've
that
committed
they've
violence.
committed a violent crime. Yes. Have undocumented immigrants who are in the country have not committed a violent crime or bad crime? Have they committed a violent crime? Obviously not. So, are they in the standard in which they should be treated in that way? Absolutely not. They haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime. They're an
Okay,
outstanding
so how are
citizen
you
and
gonna
should be
be able
allowed to
to?
stay in this country.
Okay, so how are you going to be able to differentiate the good and bad immigrants? I guess because
Violent
I mean,
crime. Have they committed a violent crime or bad crime?
how are you going to figure that out? How are
Criminal
you going to find out?
records,
Criminal.
documentation.
You don't have any documentation because they're illegal. You don't have any criminal records
Wait,
because
wait,
they're
wait,
illegal.
wait, wait. Oh, wait, hold up. If someone is in the country undocumented, and the
Hmm.
government gives them a pathway to citizenship that's very quick, I think they're
Yep.
they're very much incentivized to then get papers and to get
Absolutely, but we're
documents,
talking
right?
about right now,
Wait, hold up.
right
I just want to
today.
clarify. In that
Okay.
circumstance, then if they're incentivized to get papers, then it is the case that then we would know one, and they would go through that process, and then secondly, in terms of deporting people, Donald Trump is not following a process of due process at all. Federal agents are going in and kidnapping people who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes, who are outstanding
So
members of our community.
hang on. So we were just talking about how you would differentiate good and bad criminals, and you just said documents. Well, they're illegal. We don't know. We don't have any documents. We won't be able to tell the difference. And if you ask them straight up, "Hey, have you committed any violent crimes?" They're obviously going to say no. So I want the answer. How are you going to remove the bad criminals, the bad illegal immigrants?
If it is the case that they specifically go through our process, right,
There's no
particularly
process
of
of
a pathway to
process.
citizenship, it is the case that they would get documents. If there isn't any documents outstanding that we could have of them, well, then we wouldn't be able to make any type of assertion.
So you have no clue how you're going to get them out.
I will give you an example. There are specific circumstances in this country where people don't have documents in any other country, yet it is the case that we would still let them stay in this country. For example, if someone was brought to this country when they were an infant, and it was the case that their parents were not a part of their lives and they were raised by someone else and they don't know who their parents were, right? In that set of circumstances, they don't have documents anywhere around the world. They don't know who their parents are. They don't have any association to have any clue specifically what country they were born in, right? In that set of circumstances, would you deport them, and where would you deport them?
You asked me that, or are you making a statement?
I'm asking you.
You deport them back to their home country.
Where's their home country?
Wherever they tell you it is.
They don't know. They don't know. Their home country is the United States of America because that's all they know.
That's false.
What are you talking about? In the explicit example that I gave you, right? All they know is the United States of America. That is their home country. In a genuine sense, that is their home country.
It's not their home country.
It absolutely is.
You know they're just bullshitting.
Someone who's been here their whole life since they're an infant is absolutely, right, a member of this country. Like the idea that you have in your mind that you have to gatekeep being American so bad that an infant that was brought to this country that spent their entire life in this country isn't designated as an American in the same way that you are, right? It's just disgusting and disastrous. It's inhumane. It's incredibly inhumane. They genuinely.
Were you born in America?
Yes, I was born in America.
I wasn't, and I came here at 3. I had to go through.
And that doesn't make you That doesn't make you any less of an American than it makes me.
It makes me way more of an American than these illegal immigrants coming across. Now back to the
no. I'm giving you an example of an undocumented immigrant that was brought to the country when they were an infant. How are they not an American? They lived in this country their whole life. All they know is America.
Were they documented?
They know nothing else.
Were they documented?
They have no documents in any other country. I gave you an explicit example where there's no documents you can identify in any other country. Are you saying because they can't identify? Hold up. Are you saying? Hold up. I want you to listen to this. Are you saying because you can't identify documents from any other country around the world that you're going to specifically assume that they're in the country with nefarious means and that you're going to deport them to a country that you don't even know where?
No, not at all.
Okay, so then specifically you would let them stay in the country. So you were looking at me all weird for having this position that I would let people stay in the country given that they haven't committed a violent crime or bad crime or given that we couldn't identify it. And then for some reason you're assuming that's such an insane position when undocumented immigrants are multiple times less likely to commit violent crimes, property crimes, or drug crimes in this country. Multiple times less likely than natural born U.S. citizens. This idea that undocumented immigrants are people coming to the country committing crimes and like doing all of these horrible things is a disgusting lie created by people like Donald Trump to distract away from his crimes, from the fact that he's pardoned people who've committed crimes, who have police officers, right? To distract away from all of those crimes, from the fraud, right? Distract away from the election, for like literally trying to send false slates of electors to electoral college to cast Trump votes when he didn't win to try to steal the election. To calls for the termination of the Constitution, right? That's to distract away from all of that. He is blaming immigrants, scapegoating immigrants and trans people to literally deflect away from everything that is horrible about himself and to get bigoted people to support him no matter what. He's looking for that cult-like support. And when you specifically grant him that power, he's going to run as far as he possibly can with it, and then people are going to be harmed. And that's what I'm trying to tell you right now, is that undocumented immigrants in this country who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes should not be deported. They are outstanding members of our community, right? They have the same right to our community as you have to this community, as I have to this community, right? And it is the case that this country is built on immigration, and the only point of the process for immigration and limiting people is only if they are a threat to our safety or security. And undocumented immigrants who have not committed a violent crime or bad crime are absolutely not a threat to your safety or security, economically, personally, at all. Right, they're coming to this country for a better life to support themselves, their family, and they're also here to support you and your family. You know that undocumented immigrants and documented immigrants have higher labor force participation rate than natural-born U.S. citizens, meaning they provide more into the system than they take from it specifically, right? Actually, more than natural-born U.S. citizens. And actually, since we have a greater proportion of our population becoming older, because it is the case that a smaller portion of our population is younger and working, because fertility rates have been below replacement rates since the 1970s, the past 50 years, so that specifically having immigration, a greater population population of the population of America that's going to be working is going to actually allow for us
Parker,
to
can I talk,
continue
please?
the specific benefits
Parker,
of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid that Donald Trump right now through the big beautiful
Parker,
bill is trying to
Parker,
cut.
stop being off
880
the
billion
computer
from
for a second.
Medicaid, 300 billion from food stamps. The reason why I'm yapping right now and I'm telling you so much of this is because I want you to sit down and listen and realize all of the horrible things that Donald Trump's doing right now, because it's not just debate points, it's specific realities that are affecting people on the ground right now. And that's why I'm trying to bring it up to you in the conversation right now. Not just a debate point, it's a specific reality that you need to acknowledge.
No, I get that. I get that. But with all due respect, Parker, you just rattle off so much information, and you want me to take that in and actually listen when I can't. And I have points I want to bring up, but I can't.
I got you. I got you. And I want you to go back and watch this on YouTube later, because this is on YouTube and you can watch back on 0.75 speed and you can watch me the entire time go through that and list all of it out. You can see with the caption specifically after the live, right? Exactly what I said, so that you can then like actually engage with those topics if you didn't hear it then, right? But at least
Okay.
engage with some of the things that you understood then.
All right. All right. I appreciate it. I think we're good. That's all I wanted to talk about. I got nothing else.
You don't want to engage with what I have to say? Well,
I can't. I don't. I couldn't process all the information. I'm going to go back and watch
wait,
the video.
I didn't say that you couldn't process any of it. I said for any of which that you did not process, you can go back and look at the YouTube.
Right.
But for
Which
what
I'm
you
gonna
did
do.
process, respond to what you did process.
I couldn't take. Dude, there was like 50 facts you threw at me. I didn't even hear one of them.
You didn't hear a single one.
You talk really fast, Parker.
Even though I talk fast, you should have got 1 point, right?
Okay, so no, I did. You just talk really fast, man. That's not my fault. But I appreciate it.
So you didn't get a single thing that I said.
About the immigration, about how they do more contributing than actual wrong. I that's hard to believe, because one, they're a smaller amount of the population, so of course they're going to give more than most Americans, because most Americans live in poverty. So it's harder for them to give back to the.
Dude, what is this guy saying, bro? What is this
Hey,
guy saying? Okay, did you say most Americans live in poverty?
Yeah, so 65% of Americans right now couldn't give $1,000 like for an emergency. 65%
Okay,
of Americans.
is that wait? So hold up. Is that your classification for poverty?
No. Well, actually, yeah. I mean, if they can't bring together $1,000,
So that is your classification for poverty?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, do you think that practically everyone around the world is in poverty?
I don't know the statistics everyone around the world. I'm not going to speak on that if I don't know it.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm just clarifying.
Why?
Right?
Is
Because I mean that is true around the entire world. Like that is very true around the entire world. Like
okay.
that's one thing. But in terms of this,
I'm just saying.
I just genuinely, like you said, 65% of America here. I mean, I don't even know where you got that statistic from, to be totally honest. But I do acknowledge that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck and can't make up a random $400 expense. Right?
Absolutely.
Which is actually a huge reason why we should have things like universal health care to ease the burden on the working class, because actually it would save $450 billion per year in middleman costs between you and your doctor.
Okay.
Seriously, like that would better health outcomes in this country, increase access to services.
Can we go back to what I was trying to say, though?
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to know, what's the percentage of immigrants coming into the country? Like, compared from Americans to immigrants, what's the percentage on that?
Well, I don't know. What does that even mean?
In America right now, how many immigrants are there compared to Americans? Like, the
How
percentage?
many percentage of the population are immigrants? I don't know.
Yeah, no, illegal immigrants, illegal immigrants,
Undocumented immigrants.
Yeah.
Very small portion of the population. We're talking.
Okay, so a very small portion of the
We're
population.
talking. I think the population probably around 12 million. In the country.
Okay, so to compare the statistics of something so small about how they give so much compared to the American community is not okay, because you have a lot more people that don't contribute to America. When you have, like, if you had 12 people that gave $5 each, that's going to be a lot more than 100 people giving a cent. Like, do you get what my point is here?
Hey, when I'm just wait, hold on. I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify. When I said labor force participation rate, that accounts for population.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
For the undocumented immigrants, correct? Correct.
Yes, for any immigrant or undocumented immigrant.
My point still stands.
What? How so?
That they're gonna make the because you're comparing that these undocumented immigrants do more for the country than most Americans do. Well, I mean, statistically, sure, because they do 12% more, but they're a smaller group. Like
Okay,
if you
okay,
compare actual
okay.
money,
Wait.
that's not
When
true.
I said they provide more to the system, I was referencing labor force participation rate, which is specifically accounting for population already.
You're comparing a small portion of the undocumented immigrants to the Americans when, of course, they're gonna not bring more, but they're gonna look better than most of America because there's not many of them
I don't.
compared
I
compared to
where
compared to
it's
America.
it's accounting for population. Do
Yeah,
you know what accounting for population means?
like people, right? The amount of people.
Yeah, it divides by population.
Okay,
Yeah, so
but I think
meaning
that's
if you
fair.
divide by population, that population isn't a relevant factor to bring up to dispute the differences between them because you've already accounted for that by dividing by population.
You were talking about money, and that's where I was getting at. But you're talking about actual population, so I guess we just got confused there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I mean, the if we talk about like genuine reality, right? If you're saying that most of America lives in poverty, why do you want to increase their taxes
I never
for
said
the
that.
bottom 80% of the country? Well, that's what happens with the big beautiful bill. It increases taxes for the bottom 80% of the country disproportionately the lower income you get, while adding trillions of dollars to the debt, along with specifically cutting $880 billion from Medicaid and $300 billion from food stamps. And you know a huge portion of people who are pregnant specifically are those on Medicaid? So when you cut Medicaid, you're cutting healthcare access for pregnant women. Is that very pro-life? That
I
doesn't
mean,
sound very pro-life to me.
what do you mean? I'm not anybody.
Well, you're reducing access to healthcare for pregnant women, which will
No,
likely increase mortality rate.
no,
Really?
not at all. Yeah, not at
You
all.
don't think
That would
decreasing
not
you don't think
increasing.
decreasing
I
healthcare
would
access
much
for
rather. I
women
would
will
much rather a
wait
mother
to
have a
clarify. You don't think
baby.
decreasing healthcare access for pregnant women will increase mortality rate?
Absolutely not.
This guy's
Absolutely
delusional. This guy's
not.
delusional.
No,
This
absolutely
guy
not.
thinks that if we just cut off right healthcare access for women in this country who are pregnant, that wouldn't affect their mortality rates. This
Wait,
guy's
can I ask you
delusional.
something,
This
Parker?
guy's not informed with reality. Completely
Wait,
removed from
Parker,
reality. Jeez,
can I ask you something?
that is actually so cringe that you just said that.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Do you believe abortion's okay? Like, do you want abortion to be legal?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I want my girlfriend, right, and the women in my life, right, to not
Okay.
have to be at threat of literally dying because of the abortion legislation, right, in their state, okay, or in their country.
Are you talking about like pregnancy when they have problems?
What?
Like in one case, you just talking about say your girlfriend or someone gets pregnant and they don't want the baby. You're okay with them
Yeah,
just
yeah. Like for
aborting.
example, if my girlfriend got pregnant, I would pay for her abortion if she wanted to get an abortion.
Yeah, it's horrible.
How is that horrible? Should I go to prison for that?
Horrible. Absolutely. You don't want you.
Yeah,
It's a kid.
yeah. An embryo, a non-sentient embryo.
Still a human. It's a kid,
It's an embryo.
which is alive.
Okay. I have a
Yeah.
question. Do you value zygotes?
I have no clue what that is.
A single cell organism at conception.
Is it alive?
Yes.
Will it become a human being?
It is a human being under your view.
Okay, so yeah, if it will become and grow up to
No,
be
no, it already
a
is. It
full
already is
adult,
because it's life.
to
Human
become a
life is a
full
human
adult,
being, right?
it's a process.
Human
It's a
life is a
process.
human being?
Human life, yes, is a human
Okay.
being.
So it's life at conception. It's a single cell. Could you ever mistake a person, right, for a single cell organism?
At the very beginning stages? Or are you talking about in general?
Do you think Ant-Man exists?
What?
I mean, I
No.
don't think I can look at people through a microscope, or I don't think people are the size of
Well,
microorganisms
that's
because I
why
don't
I
believe
said
that Ant-Man
that's
exists.
why I
Okay,
said there's a process, Parker.
what's up?
Like you said, it starts as an embryo, correct? Correct.
Yeah, no, we're talking about zygote, single cell organism at conception.
Which is a human?
What? Say it again.
Which is a human?
Yes, it's a human life.
Oh. Then yes. What's the problem here?
It's a single cell organism. Who gives a?
That's like saying who
It's
cares
it's
about
it's like
you?
it's like
That's so
caring about
wrong.
it. It's like caring like a sperm cell, dude. Who gives a? Dude, it's literally a single cell organism.
No, because a sperm cell isn't a human being yet. It hasn't created an embryo. That's so wrong. That's like comparing a cat to a dog. It's just not. You can't compare those two things.
What do you mean? Well,
So
wait. Okay.
what do
Let
you
me
call
ask you
it
this question: could you ever mistake a human being for a microorganism? Is that possible?
in what stage? Like in the very beginning?
Sure.
Then
Because
if I
I don't
was
think I could ever mistake a baby for a microorganism. I would never. I like
no,
seriously
you
like
can't.
you look at a
They're different
microorganism,
stages.
you look at
See,
an
Parker,
infant.
that's what.
I
Stop.
would
No, no,
never
no, no.
once
You asked
make
me a
an
question.
issue
You need to let me
between
answer.
identifying the difference.
No, so that's why I asked what stage. Because if they're both at like the where you gotta look through a microscope,
Wait,
of
we're talking
course.
about the earliest. For me, the earliest stages for a person is when
For you, for
is
you,
when it's later in the
not for
point
me.
of development, when it's around 20 through 24 weeks, specifically after the point of sentience is developed, and at that point, it's easily identifiable comparative to a microorganism. I would never make
Because it
that
was at a different
distinction.
stage. Because it was at a different stage.
Yeah, because that's the earliest stages of the points in which it's
It's
valuable.
not
You believe microorganisms are people, so
because they grow into humans, correct?
well, I thought they already are a human.
They are, but they grow into more of an adult human, correct?
In the future, they might, yeah.
They they will.
Same thing is true, right, for sperm on track to fertilize an egg, right? If you leave it to its natural processes, in the future, there will be a being that is a human being in the future.
No, because there's error. There's margin of error where it hasn't happened yet.
Wait, there's margin of error at the point of. Wait, I just want to clarify. You know, there's margin of error at the point of conception as well, because not all
If something
conceived.
went
No,
wrong,
let me please finish. Not all conceived cells, right? Specifically implant. A lot of them just get flushed out of the system. So if you believe in God, God just created a natural process to flush zygotes out of the system because they lack value.